Om Shri Sai Ram. When asked to talk about the moment with Sai, I believe it's been the most difficult thing to gather my thoughts and to find that singular moment that I could say is the moment with Bhagawan. In my life, I believe every time I've thought, sang, spoken to him, I'll describe that to be a moment with Bhagawan. And he's been part of my life journey since before I was born as well. So for that reason, I'm going to talk about 4 instances which have shaped my relationship with Bhagawan and have been the key moments where I felt Bhagawan the most in my life. So the first moment I'll be talking about today happened before I was born. My mom was 7 months pregnant and she developed abdominal pains with me in her stomach. And they went to someone's house who had vibhuti coming. And the person said, "You've got so much pains, have some vibhuti, both you and your unborn child will be fine." Mum had the vibhuti, and suddenly the abdominal pains stopped. So it was like Bhagawan was protecting me even before I was born. He was already my Pran Sakha before I was even had life in me. So that was my first time I was indebted to him, even before I was born. I was born, went through Balikas, and I'm going to go forward to 2004 for my second experience, where I felt Bhagawan the most, when he actually said to me, whilst performing, at the end of the performance, we'd told for months, preparing, practicing, going to Merton 3 to 4 times a week so that we could rehearse for the play. I was given the opportunity to play multiple roles in the play. First of all was being Kamsa, Krishna's evil uncle, who was imprisoning Krishna's mom and dad. Now, it is an evil role. So for me, throughout that journey, even though I was practicing, even though I was putting my 100% in, thought that was coming in was, "Swami, why was I given the role of an evil person? What is my learning in this?" I was 14 years old. I was in that point where I was a rebellious teenager. Didn't want to follow the guidance of the organization, nor of Bhagawan, but somehow dedicated myself to this pilgrimage that we're going for Sai Mahima. But the question was always at the back of my mind, why Kamsa? Why me, Bhagawan? But he had also given me the opportunity to within the play, become a student. And that was one of the thoughts I had throughout my childhood was, I'd love to study at your school or your college. So Bhagawan had given me the opportunity to play a student. I wasn't happy with that. I was still asking, why Kamsa? The performance finished. Bhagawan graciously came on stage. It was an important year, 2004, because Bhagawan had just had his hip replacement, and many people had warned us, saying, Bhagawan's not sitting for long for darshan, for performances. Everything's happening in Golden Hall. Fortunately, Bhagawan had given us permission in the hall to do our performance. When we finished our performance, Bhagawan sat there for an hour and he walked up to the stage. And I was standing in the middle row between the sisters and the brothers. And I remember categorically the words that came out of Bhagawan's mouth for me was, "Hey, big boy, stop crying." Now, these words have actually resonated throughout my life after that. That, first of all, for the fact I played Kamsa I wasn't looking at the fact that I got the opportunity to play the Divine Lord's uncle who got killed by him. I was thinking, why am I playing this evil king? Subsequently, after that, every single time I felt, you know what, Bhagawan, why me? Those thoughts have come back to me saying, hey, big boy, stop crying. So I'd like to forward a few more years. When I'd finished university, I had my first job, and I quit my first job because I was going through a low period of my life. And again, I remember Bhagawan coming back in my life, and he came through two ways. He came through one, which was Sathya speaks, where at the end of the war, when Arjuna's dejected and he feels like he's not achieved anything and he is a failure and he wants to give up on his life, and Bhagawan, in the form of Krishna, comes and says to him that you have no rights to take your life. You have no rights to do anything with your life, as your life is mine. So in my head, I was like, before I take any stock actions in my life, I need to think about this, that my life is Bhagawan's life. He protected me before I was born. He's been there throughout my life. So my life is his. That same evening, Bhagawan came in my dream, and I remember categorically, he called me and he gave me a hug, gave me the warmest embrace I could ever feel in my life, and said, stay with me. The next day, I realized that, I might have no one in my life I could speak to, but I have Bhagawan. So Bhagawan became my eternal friend. Moving forward a few more years, during COVID, Bhagawan gave me the wonderful opportunity to have a small role in the organization, looking after media. And one of the most important things about that period of COVID was uncertainty. I remember vividly, we would have guest speakers talking from across the world for the Sai Corona talks. And they would be over Zoom. And there were countless times where we would put our 100% in. And then, a few minutes before the guest speaker is about to speak, Zoom would stop working. There would be an outage, or something would go wrong. And the thing that we would have to do is pray. And his hand would be there again to protect us. Somehow the Sai Corona talks would always go forward. Maybe with a delay, maybe we weren't praying enough, but he would make sure that it happened. And it was his grace at the end of the day. During that same period, I remember I fell really, really ill, to a point where I was admitted into hospital. And the first thought, it was a Monday morning on the 4th of October, 2021, I remember categorically, we had a go live at work, and I was planning to go into work. The night before, I was at work preparing for this go live, and that evening I developed abdominal pains and chest pains. And I just prayed. I was like, what's happening? I was rolling around, didn't know what to do. The pains were increasing, and 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, I decided I'll call the ambulance. The ambulance said there were already 2 inundated with the calls this morning, and I'd have to make my way to A&E. Lucky enough, Bhagawan had pre-COVID given me a role in a hospital, and it was the local A&E, which was work for me. So I told my parents to drive me into A&E, which they did. And somehow I was rushed into resus and put under observation. The thought that was coming through my mind was, the next day we have the health webinars. Who's going to cover that? So I messaged one of the fellow youths saying, please cover for me. I can't do tomorrow. And then I was put under observation. I started to fall a lot more ill. I was put on heavy medication and eventually was put into a ward, isolated. I had become quite ill where I needed to be on oxygen throughout the night. And there was, during that period, 1 week when I was in hospital, I remember there used to be a nurse that came in. There was an agency nurse that was looking after me. And 7 days later, when I felt slightly better, on a Monday evening, I joined a UK council meeting. I finished the meeting with Sairam, like we do for closing anything. And I got off the call. And this nurse walked in. And the first question was, so when did you go Prashanti last? I looked at the uncle and I said, do you know about Swami? He goes, yeah, I've been a devotee for over 40 years and I go bhajans regularly. My first thought was, wow, dude, actually, at this time, you sent a devotee of yours when I was feeling ill. That week when I was ill, before I found out that this nurse was a devotee, question in my head was, Swami, why me again? Why am I ill? But a week later, he just said to me, Bhagawan showed to me that, hey, I'm here. You just didn't pray enough and you didn't want to accept that I'm always going to be there for you. And the last experience I'm going to talk about is doing his work. He does look after you quite categorically. It was a few years before when I was really feeling itchy at work, thinking I've now hit my glass ceiling at work. I want to quit. I don't know what to do. I want to quit. Bored at work. I want to quit. And I kept it to myself, but Bhagawan listens. And at the same time, Bhagawan gave me an opportunity to take up a role, a precursor to the role that I was taking up during COVID. And the moment I said yes to the role, Bhagawan showed his hand in my professional life. He sent my boss one day. As she walked in, she looked at me and goes, by the way, from Monday, you're doing this new role. I was just dumbfounded. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you're getting promoted. This is your new role. I walked in this morning in intention to interview people on Zoom. But when I saw you, I just felt that something told me that you're the person for that role. And from Monday, you're taking up this role. I was like, thank you. But in my head, I was like, Bhagawan, is that you saying to me that I've done your role and you're going to bless me now? And it was apparent that his hand was in that. My learnings from all of those experiences have been that you've got to put your 100% in, but you have to believe that he's going to be there for you regardless of whatever happens. That we forget him, and I have forgotten him many times, but he doesn't forget us, and he is there every moment protecting us and being with us all the time. Jai Saram.